Good morning, fourth graders. Today we are working on comparing decimals. So yesterday you were comparing decimals with models and with number lines. Today we're going to be comparing decimals just by having 2 or 3 decimals and comparing them, seeing which one is greater, less than, or equal to. Or sometimes it's going to ask you to put them in order or order them. That means just put them in order from least to greatest or greatest to least. Now, this is what we worked on yesterday when we were talking about comparing decimals. And I gave you guys this example of 2 different decimals. And in this one, we had tenths, and in this one, we had hundredths. So just remember, as a quick review, let's say we do have the 7 tenths. That's the same thing as the fraction 7 over 10. 7 out of 10, 7 tenths. Now let's use that same example, except in this case we have 78 hundredths because we see that 8 is in the hundredths place. So we would write 78 hundredths. Now I told you it is hard to compare these two because they are different. They have different denominators. This one's in the tenths and this one's in the hundredths. So in order to make it easier for us to compare, what we can do is we can change this fraction or this decimal into a decimal that is closer, that is in the hundredths place, so that we can compare. So we know that over here, if we have 7 tenths and we want it to get to the hundredths place, what you do to the top, you do to the bottom. So let's see. If I want to get this denominator to 100, remember, I do 10 times 10 is 100, and now I have to do that to the top. 7 times 10 is 70. So now we can easily compare. What's bigger, 70 hundredths or 78 hundredths? Well, I know 78 hundredths is bigger, which means that the decimal, 78 hundredths, is bigger. So now, if this is 70 hundredths, and we've changed that fraction, now we can change the decimal to 70 hundredths. So let's take another look. Let's say over here I have 32 hundredths compared to 4 tenths. Well, remember, all I have to do is take a look at these right here. And if this is 4 tenths, that means that is the same thing as 40 hundredths. That 0 is just a placeholder because it's showing that they are equivalent. 4 tenths is equivalent or equal to 40 hundredths. So now we can look at these. What's bigger, 32 hundredths or 40 hundredths? Well, I know the number 40 is bigger, so that means 40 hundredths must also be bigger. So 32 hundredths is less than 4 tenths or less than 40 hundredths. Let's do one more together. In this one, I'm going to give you 3 fractions, and we're going to try to order them. We're going to try to put them in order. Let's say that the order is least to greatest. Now, this is really important that you pay attention to the question and see what is it asking, because you could know the order, but if the question is asking from greatest to least or least to greatest and you do the opposite, it would be marked wrong. So we want to make sure that you always are getting your correct answers, because I know you're able to do this. So let's say we have the numbers 7 tenths, 68 hundredths, and 3 tenths. Now we can use that trick that I taught you before. Because these are hard to compare, because they're not on the same playing field. They are not all the same number. They're not all in the hundredths place, because these two are in the tenths place. So remember, what I can do is I can add a 0 at the end, because 7 tenths is the same thing as 70 hundredths. 3 tenths is the same thing as 30 hundredths. So I'm just going to use those zeros as placeholders there so that we can get an equal comparison and we can actually see what these numbers compare to. So now I have my decimals all lined up. So I can now just look at these numbers. 70 hundredths, 68 hundredths, 30 hundredths. Now if we're going from least to greatest, we know that 3 here, or 30, is the smallest number. So our smallest number would be 3/10ths, or 30 hundredths. That's the smallest number. Now let's see what's next. We have 7/10ths, or 70 hundredths, and we have 68 hundredths. Well, what's bigger, 68 or 70? Well, 70 is bigger, so that means that 68 hundredths must be the next one. Awesome. That means that 7/10ths or 70 hundredths, they're the same thing, they're equivalent, but it originally came as 7/10ths, so that's how I'm going to write it, would be the greatest one. So when you're working today, remember that you can add your 0 at the end to make these on the same playing field so that you are able to compare all the hundredths. Remember to take a look out for least to greatest so that you make sure that you have them in the right order. What is the question asking? Good luck today, guys, on comparing and ordering fractions. Decimals. We're still in the fraction unit. Good luck today, and let me know if you have any questions. Bye.